Hello and welcome to another episode of the In-Depth series. You all have heard about the Kohinoor diamond. We all know who possess it, but do you know about the history, the very turbulent history of the Kohinoor? If not, then you have come to the right place. We will comprehensively cover everything about the Kohinoor. So starting with the points of discussion, just have a look at these points. These are the basic points that we will go through step by step. The main thing about this particular segment is that an Odisha organization, which is a socio-cultural organization, has claimed the Kohinoor for Jagannath. Why have they done so? What is the history behind it? Let us know about it. So, moving ahead, the Sri Jagannath Sena, which is actually a socio-cultural group, has sought President Draupadi Murmu's intervention in bringing back the Kohinoor to Jagannath, to India, and then give it to Jagannath. Why? Because they are saying Maharaja of Punjab Ranjit Singh had donated the diamond to the Puri Lord after he won a battle against Nadir Shah in Afghanistan. But it was not handed over immediately. Actually, Ranjit Singh died in 1839, and then the British took the Kohinoor away from his son Duleep Singh. So this is the entire issue, and they were aware. They did so despite the fact that they were aware that the Kohinoor has been bequeathed to the Jagannath Puri. Moving ahead, let's talk about the Kohinoor. Kohinoor in Persian means the mountain of light. It is one of the largest cut diamonds in the world, weighing 105.6 carats, that is 21.12 gram. Okay. And it is a part of the British Crown Jewels. British Crown Jewels is an amalgamation of very important and world-class objects as well as gems. They have been protected in the Tower of London since the 1600s, and the crown of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, possesses or is embedded with the Kohinoor. Okay, so we see before as it was recut. So before recutting, it was like this. After recutting, as you can see, the side view, the back view, and the front view gave it the shape that it is in today. Now, moving ahead, let us talk about the previous structure of Kohinoor. Kohinoor, as it was in its origin point, it was more like an oval shaped before recutting, and it weighed 186 carat. In its original setting, as you can see, it was a part of the armlet. This is an armlet. And after it went to the Britons, it was reshaped. We'll talk about that as well. Let's talk about the history. Now, the history is very fidgety. We do not have any clear record of its history, but most likely it is said to be found in southern India between 1100 and 1300, and that was from the Guntur. These all are speculations. Guntur of Andhra Pradesh. And in 1306, it is mentioned for the first time in some historical texts as belonging to the Rajas of Malwa, and it is reported to have belonged to the ruler of an ancient Oriental kingdom as far back as 3000 BC. Some Mesopotamian texts are also ambiguously mentioning a diamond. Now, records say that it originated from Guntur, which is present in Andhra Pradesh. History becomes more clear from 1526. The first verified mention, that means it could be corroborated from other sources as well, crops up in the Babur Nama, which was the writing of the Mughal king Babur. Babur acquired the rock after defeating Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat, and then passed the diamond to Shah Jahan and then Aurangzeb. Now, before it came into the possession of Sultan Muhammad. So it stayed in the Mughal family from the times of Babur. The history then tells us that in 1739, Persian general Nadir Shah defeated Muhammad to conquer Delhi and took away the diamond. And now he was the one to name the Kohinoor Kohinoor. And before that, it wasn't named as Kohinoor. he takes the stone back, that is diamond, to Persia, but is assassinated 8 years later. The diamond now passes into the possession of one of his generals, Ahmad Shah Durrani. So it passed on to Ahmad Shah Durrani, in whose family it stays for the next generation. The Durrani family of Afghanistan got it. After that, in 1830, the diamond was returned to India when Shah Shuja Durrani, he escaped quarrels of his brother from the Afghanistan Empire, and he was the descendant of Ahmad Shah. Okay. And when he escaped from Kabul, he propounded that Maharaja Ranjit Singh gives him shelter in exchange of the diamond. So the Kohinoor came to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Then in 1839, Maharaja Ranjit Singh dies. And in quick successions, few of his sons died, making Duleep Singh, who was just 5 years old, as the ruler of Punjab. Okay. So Duleep Singh became the ruler of Punjab, and he actually was just 11 years of age when he gave away the diamond to the Britons during signing of the Treaty of Lahore. Okay, and he was just 11 years old back then, and he is said to be the last Indian sovereign to have won the Kohinoor. Moving ahead, now how did the Britons get it? 1845 onwards, we see the British won the Second Anglo-Sikh War, and they annexed, which according to the winning of the Anglo-Sikh War, they were annexing the Sikh kingdom of Punjab under the Treaty of Lahore. And Duleep Singh, such a child, he was a child back then, 11 years of age. He signed over the kingdoms and the diamond over to them before stepping down from his throne. Now, according to the Article 3 of the Lahore Treaty, which reads, the gem called the Kohinoor, which was taken from Shah Shuja ul Mulk by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, shall be surrendered by the Maharaja of Lahore to the Queen of England. All right. Now, moving on, this is a picture of Queen Victoria wearing the Kohinoor. Moving ahead, how did the Britons get it? So, basic structure is clear. How did they get it? In 1850s, the diamond was sent to England. Queen Victoria received the diamond as an oval egg shaped. She was actually not very happy with the shape because it did not rise up to the expectations of the Briton, as the diamond was exhibited at Great Exhibition at Crystal Palace in 1851. Because of its unpolished nature and because of its huge size, it was suggested that it should be cut and it should be polished. So polishing took few days. It was ordered by Prince Albert, who was the husband of Queen Victoria. He ordered the polishing of the Kohinoor, and it reduced the weight of the Kohinoor by 42%. So earlier it was 186 carat, now it is 105 carats. Now the question arises, who will inherit the Kohinoor that is in the crown jewels, and it is studded in the crown of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, not Elizabeth II. We are talking about the mother of Elizabeth II. So it was said, it was according to a myth or a belief that Queen Victoria had believed. It was said that he who owns the diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God or woman can wear it with impunity. So, believing that, Queen Victoria asks in her will that the Kohinoor only be worn by a female queen. That means His Majesty King Charles III will not inherit the Kohinoor. The stone is then added to the crowns for her successors and is stored away in the Tower of London, and it has been there ever since. Prince Charles now becomes the king, His Majesty Charles III. So his wife, that is Queen Consort. Queen Consort is a title that is taken by the spouse of an inherited king or queen. So Queen Consort will get this diamond, that is of course Camilla. Okay, so queen, because it's like the belief says. Moving ahead, now the question arises that will India get Kohinoor back or not? Since the passing away of Queen Elizabeth II, The clamor for getting the diamond back to India has gained momentum. So, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Britain, basically all these four countries claim the Kohinoor diamond. Now, in 2016, Center files an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying that it was a part of loot in the Treaty of Lahore. It wasn't. Earlier, there was a stand that it was gifted, but later on they changed it, saying that it was a loot. So they wanted to get the Kohinoor back through diplomatic channels because, first of all, legal channels would discourage relations, good relations with the UK, and there are not very strong legal backing with respect to the diamond. So through diplomatic channels, they were expecting it. How serious was India can be gauged from the fact that External Affairs Minister back then, Sushma Swaraj, and Culture Minister Mahesh Sharma held a 45-minute long meeting to devise a plan to bring back the Kohinoor. Bringing back of the diamond faces legal and technical hurdles. Why? Because it dates back to the pre-independence period and it doesn't fall under the purview of Antiquities and Art Treasure Act of 1972. That is another problem. Now, in 2014, there was a case in which British Museum returned two bronze statues from Benin to Nigeria. Okay, this is not Benin this is Benin to Nigeria. They were taken because they were taken during an attack in 1897 after British officials were killed during a trade mission. Again, the hopes have risen, although legal battles are showing that India does not hold a very robust position. But French President Emmanuel Macron declared in 2017 in Burkina Faso that France would return African artifacts to Africa. And then he also did it after we saw COVID-19. France sent back 26 Beninese treasures. In 2020, the Netherlands promised to give back any object that may have been stolen. And in April, Glasgow Museum announced the return of 17 Benin artifacts apart from the 7 Indian ones. Germany too has pledged to give back artifacts. So a precedent has been set. The world is changing. We are still hopeful. Moving ahead, there is no legal backing with respect to India, as I already told you, but there is a convention. The convention is the 1970 Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. Because Kohinoor is deeply embedded into the history and culture of India. This is a UN convention. Okay, remember that. It urges the state parties to take measures to prohibit and prevent the illicit trafficking of cultural property. It provides a common framework for the states parties on the measures to be taken to prohibit and prevent import, export, and transfer of cultural property. But since the last many years, it has been the long-standing position of the UK government that we don't believe that there are any legal grounds for the restitution of the Kohinoor jewels, because it might open a Pandora box for returning all the jewels, because almost everything we know where it has came from, where it has come from the imperialism that Britain did in the entire world.